Hi, this is Jesse Liberty. Today we're going to continue talking about the RAD docking control. RAD docking is part of the Telerik RAD controls for Silverlight and WPF control suite for XAML and .NET development. Today we're going to look at how we can affect RAD docking dynamically, setting the undocking property or allowing docking, and also dynamically adding a new pane to a pane group. To get started, let's open Visual Studio, create a new project. Let's call that rad dockable.dynamic, accept Silverlight 5. And we're going to use the docking reference, which will bring in all of its dependent references as well. First thing we want to do in the grid is create column definitions. We're going to have two columns. The left-hand column is going to be twice as wide as the right-hand column, so we'll use star sizing to set the relative widths of the two columns. With the two columns in place, the next thing that we want to do is drop in a dockable control. Notice in this dockable control that every element has a name. So the docking control has a name, the split container has a name, the group has a name, and each pane has a name. Below our docking control, we're going to add a stack panel, which we will place to the right by putting it in grid column 1. And we'll set the horizontal and vertical alignment to stretch so that it fills that entire column. Inside our stack panel, let's create a button. Name the button Make Floating Only. Set the content accordingly. We'll set the width and margin, and then we'll set a click event handler for that button. Let's save that and go to the code behind, where we can implement the click event handler that we just created. What we need to do is get to one of our panes, in this case rad pane 1, and on that pane call Make Floating Only, which will prohibit redocking of the pane. It will make it float and not allow it to dock. Let's run that and see if that's the effect we get. We start out with 3 panes. We click our button. The first pane becomes floating and there's no way to dock it. We don't get the docking controls. Let's fix that by going back to the XAML. We'll add a second button, name that Make Dockable, set the content of the button, set the width and margin of the button, and create a click event handler. Once again, we'll save that and go to the code behind file, where we'll find the event handler. And again, we take our pane and we simply set Make Dockable on that pane. And now when we click that button, that pane will become dockable again. Let's run the application to see that at work. First we click Make Floating Only and our pane is floating and cannot be docked. Then we click Make Dockable, and now we have the dock points and we can redock the pane. Let's create one more button, a little bit more interesting. We'll call this one Dock New Pane. Set the content, set the width and margin, and create a new click event handler. Save that and go to the code behind. What we want to do now is to create a new pane that's going to go into the pane group with the other 3 panes. To do that, the first thing we do is declare an item of type rad pane. We can then give that rad pane a header, so we'll set the header to be new pane. And now we're going to take our rad group and call add item on it. That takes 2 arguments. We pass in our new item and then we pass in an enumeration for the dock position, and in this case we'll choose bottom. Let's save and run that. When the application comes up, we can click our first button and make the pane float. Click our second button and allow it to dock again, and then when we click our third button, we get a new pane beneath the pane group that was already in place. I hope you've seen how easy it is to manipulate dockable panes dynamically. For Telerik, this is Jesse Liberty. Thank you very much, and I hope that you will continue to watch the Zamoflix series as we consider other aspects of the RAD dockable.